Fear Zone, your sinister channel for the most terrifying narratives of reality. Now we're going to enter Junior's dark story, a dive into the abysses of the city of Barreiras, Brazil, in the macabre year of 2013, when Junior was 22 years old. Junior, young and fearless, had his destiny intertwined with the supernatural, and tonight and today we embark on this journey full of darkness and unmentionable secrets, as the story that unfolds goes beyond the boundaries of conventional horror. I live in an ordinary village with my parents, a facade of normality that hides the shadows that lie ahead. However, nearby, a ranch in the countryside is home to relatives, and it is there that the sinister plot begins to weave itself. The normality of the village crumbles in the face of the imminence of the rural terror that is unfolding. Prepare to witness what goes beyond the serene appearances of this apparent community. My cousin, a resident of the ranch, invited me to a forró party, that dancing melody that echoes in Brazilian hearts. The apparent joy of the celebration hid a darker plot, and I reluctantly accepted his invitation. At the end of the week, I went to my cousin's house lost in the countryside where my grandfather's uncle was also. The atmosphere, initially impregnated with festivity, was eclipsed by my grandfather's ominous warning. He called for us to avoid a specific path towards the forró, warning of supernatural events in the region. Ignoring the old man's omens, my cousin belittled his words, labeling him a gaga. Darkness was beginning to wither the light of the celebration, and little did I know the terror that awaited us in the undisturbed trails of the region. However, my grandfather's macabre tale echoed, injecting terror into my being. He warned us that a few days ago, he had returned from an extra job at 1 o'clock in the morning, hitching a ride with his boss in a pickup truck. In the middle of the journey, the headlight revealed an aberrant creature on the side of the dirt road. The chills intensified when my grandfather described the grotesque figure, standing like a man but an amalgamation of dog and monkey. The boss, stunned, stopped the truck staring at the beast. A moment of bewilderment enveloped them both as the creature, confused, stared at them. In an instant, it crouched and took off in desperation, galloping on all fours like a demonic dog. And the yellow in the werewolf's eyes was a demonic gleam that would haunt the nightmares of any brave soul. Terror, now palpable, crept through the shadows, and the path to the forró became a portal to the unknown. Despite the old man's warning, terror crept in. My cousin, skeptical, ignored the warning, dismissing the story. We left the house, heading down the forbidden path towards the forró party. I tried in vain to persuade him to avoid that haunted route, suggesting safer streets. He obstinately opted for the forbidden shortcut, believing it would be quicker. On the gloomy path, lined with old lampposts, the darkness was oppressive. Semi-arid forests whispered unknown secrets. It was midnight, the atmosphere was full of suspense, my heart was pounding to the beat of the unknown. The road, lit only by the weakness of the street lamps, revealed grotesque shadows. Every step was an invitation to terror, and the distant forró party seemed like a pact with the supernatural. Fate, dark and inescapable, awaited in the implacable darkness of midnight. As we made our way along the road, we abruptly came across a small goat's corpse on the side of the road. The macabre sight revealed only the carcass, vestige of a ferocious attack. The deep and numerous marks denounced the cruelty of the predator. The air carried the smell of recent death, and our fear increased when we realized that the animal was still warm. The sinister image paralyzed us, terrifying our senses. The silence, broken only by our beating hearts, echoed the proximity of the unknown. The darkness, now impregnated with the spectre of carnage, whispered secrets of impending horrors. The road ahead became a labyrinth of fear, and the gloomy foreboding hinted that death, voracious and indifferent, was dancing around us. The anguish persisted, but we continued along the nefarious path. We approached a house by the side of the road, witnessing a scene that chilled our souls. In the yard, restless goats were stirring, as if sensing the proximity of evil. Driven by curiosity, we peered into the vacant lot next to the fence, illuminated only by the dim light of the house. Our hearts pounded as we saw a figure, crouching and kneeling like a human figure. An anguished pause gripped my cousin and me as we tried to decipher the enigma in front of us. The darkness seemed to manifest itself in disturbing shapes, and the flickering light in the house revealed a sinister presence waiting to reveal itself fully. The suspense grew, and the next sighting would be the key to unlocking the terror that lurked in that gloomy night. The horror unfolded before our eyes as we stared at the shadowy figure. Suddenly, the dogs in the house erupted into deafening barking, announcing the presence of the stranger. The figure, previously kneeling, rose majestically, assuming a human posture. However, what was revealed before us was a materialized nightmare. With our hearts racing, we realized it wasn't a man. Horror seized us as we gazed at its large ears and completely hairy body. This grotesque being defied all the laws of nature, like an aberration born of forbidden nightmares. The flickering light of the house revealed the truth. We were facing something that transcended human comprehension, a manifestation of the terror that lurks in the shadows. The unknown was unveiling itself, and fear clung to us like an eternal shadow. Dread gripped us as the creature turned its misshapen head towards us, a head that, when revealed, resembled that of a distorted dog in a nightmare. The eyes, two incandescent lights, pierced our souls like blades of terror. It was undeniable, in the face of such a grotesque sight, that we were facing a werewolf, an aberration that defied reason. A chilling certainty echoed through my being, for this beast was identical to the one described by my grandfather. His warning came true before our terrified eyes. The presence of the supernatural, with its luminous eyes and distorted form, merged with the darkness, creating an image that would haunt our minds forever. We were facing the living manifestation of the unknown, a werewolf that, for an instant, made our own fears tangible. The terror intensified with every heartbeat. As these thoughts echoed, the beast fixed its evil gaze in our direction. In a chilling instant, it crouched down, assuming the four-legged hunting stance. The brutal realization that we were the prey triggered a primal instinct for survival. Without hesitation, my cousin and I burst into a desperate run, each step echoing the roar of terror that was chasing us. The sound of the werewolf's paws echoed down the dark road, fueling our anguish. I looked back, a gesture that turned out to be a pact with despair. And there the beast was, slinking through the shadows, its terrifying presence only steps away from us. Panic intertwined with gasping for breath as the werewolf mercilessly hunted us through the dark night. Every shadow, every twisted branch became an accomplice to our desperation as we fled the clutches of the creature that had emerged from our darkest nightmares.
Momentary relief came when a car approached on the deserted road. Desperately, we tried to signal the driver for help. However, our hopes were dashed when we noticed a woman behind the wheel. In a frenzy of fear, she accelerated the car and disappeared into the night, leaving us at the mercy of the darkness. We were perplexed, wondering if she was afraid of a robbery or if she had also seen the beast on the road. When I looked back at the road, there was still no sign of the monster. The silence that followed was more unsettling than any roar, leaving us adrift in a sea of uncertainty. The road, now devoid of witnesses, was the scene of a nightmare that dissolved as mysteriously as it had appeared. The unknown, dark and elusive, whispered that our encounter with the supernatural was far from over. Gasping for breath, heart pounding, we continued to escape, even after the hitchhiker slipped away. Finally, we reached a village ahead, where we stopped our frantic running. The momentary relief did not dispel the anguish that enveloped us. My cousin and I, trembling with terror, kept a wary eye on each other, fearing that the beast might surprise us at any moment. The silence in the village seemed to scream with the uncertainty of what awaited us in the shadows. Every shadow, every whisper of the wind, fueled our paranoia. The trauma of the relentless hunt haunted us, even in the relative safety of the village. The night, now impregnated with the specter of the unknown, shaped our cautious steps. Terror, although momentarily removed, continued to lurk in every dark corner, like an ominous promise that the night still held terrifying secrets. Arriving at the foro party brought little relief to my haunted spirit. Despite the lively music and the hustle and bustle of the hall, the shadow of that sinister night persisted in my mind. Entering the hall, the festive atmosphere clashed brutally with the terrifying memories of the dark road. The desolation that hung over me like a macabre fog undermined any attempt at joy. Even in the midst of laughter and dancing, the memory of the werewolf chasing us haunted every step. The once promising party turned into a stage of silent lament, where my soul still echoed the cries of the night before. Discouragement eclipsed any remnants of fun, and I found myself drowning in a sea of anguish, unable to escape the clutches of the terror that had taken deep root in my soul. The end of the foro didn't dispel the tension that enveloped us. At 4:30 in the morning, even immersed in fear, my cousin and I headed for the bus stop. A few brave souls were waiting for the bus in the afterglow, but the darkness still persisted. We stood there, watching the dawn try to penetrate the shadows, hesitant to once again face the dirt roads that had witnessed our nightmare. Every minute at that bus stop was an eternity, with our eyes constantly scanning the surroundings, wary of any suspicious movement. The dawn, rather than bringing relief, seemed to reveal the extent of our vulnerability. Fear, like a traumatic shadow, persisted, even in the fragile light of the new day. We were trapped between the dread of last night and the uncertainty of the unfolding morning, in a limbo where terror continued to whisper its veiled threats. Time dragged on agonizingly as we boarded the bus, seeking the comfort of my cousin's house. When we arrived, exhausted, we sank into the sheets in search of some refuge from last night's shadows. Sleep, however, was interrupted by silent nightmares. In the middle of the afternoon, breaking through the veil of sleep, I woke up with a heaviness in my heart. I hesitantly sought out my grandfather to share the truth he had tried to warn us about. The certainty of this revelation took root in me like a seed of horror, transforming what was once a vague suspicion into a terrifying reality. The dark night still echoed in every nook and cranny of my mind as I confronted the undeniable truth that had manifested itself in the form of a monster we had believed to be the fruit of legend and superstition. The haunting persisted, days after the encounter with the werewolf. The image of that macabre creature continued to haunt my thoughts, an unwelcome specter that refused to disappear. However, the terror narrative took on a new dimension a few weeks later. Regional newspapers and radio stations began to broadcast disturbing reports from people in rural areas. The creature, now attributed to possibly being a goatsucker, was sowing panic by sucking the blood of goats and sometimes brutally mutilating these animals on farms. The terror that was once personal now expanded to haunt the whole region. The line between the real and the supernatural, once clear, began to blur in the face of reports that echoed a darker truth than any legend could suggest. The fear that had once been my solitary companion was now becoming a symphony of horror shared by the entire rural community. Uncertainty hung like a shadow as the media mentioned the mysterious chupacabra. For me, however, it was clear as night that the real architect of the terror was the werewolf I had witnessed. An insidious suspicion whispered that the media, in collusion with the obscure, were hiding the truth. The wolf in sheep's clothing, camouflaged as a goatsucker, served as a smokescreen to calm the locals, while the real horror persisted in the shadows. Doubt about the reality of the creature was a poison that seeped in, questioning the sanity of my own perception. The comedy presented by the media, disguised as jocular reports, seemed like another trick to dilute the bitter truth that lurked in the darkness. Terror now meant not only facing the beast but also deciphering the veils of deception that obscured the macabre truth that haunted those foggy nights. The shadow of terror continues to hang over me, eating away at any remnants of courage. Avoiding the dark woods has become an agonizing necessity, especially at night, as the mere thought of entering the creature's territory paralyzes me with fear. The vivid memory of the werewolf with its macabre figure and glowing eyes echoes like a constant nightmare. The dread of crossing paths with the beast is overwhelming, as the feeling that the next time could be fatal torments my thoughts. The luck that favored us that early morning when the werewolf was driven away by a car is a fragile blessing. The uncertainty of what will happen the next time darkness falls holds me captive. The throbbing need to unravel the mystery surrounding the metamorphosis of that beast plagues my thoughts. However, my grandfather, wise and cautious, warned me about the futility of this quest. The alarming news in the newspapers and on television had brought about an irrevocable change. The man trapped in the skin of a werewolf would not be found in the region. The hunt that was underway, fueled by sensationalist rumors, had forced him to abandon his home, fleeing away from prying eyes and vigilante hands. Sadness and resignation hung over this story, for the creature, escaping into the unknown shadows, carried with it the secret of a curse that persisted like a scar on the soul of those lands. The enigma of the werewolf, shrouded in a veil of despair, would remain untouched, defying any attempt to reveal the truth behind the monstrosity that plagued those unforgettable nights. The warning echoes like a dark whisper, piercing the soul with the certainty of the unknown. Beware, werewolves lurk, ready to emerge from the darkness of the dirt roads. Thank you ominously for sharing this moment of terror with me. If the story sent a chill down your spine, leave your like as a silent pact. Subscribe, not as mere spectators, but as companions on this journey through the shadows. Until next time, when the boundaries between the real and the unthinkable will once again dissolve, revealing the horrors that await in the folds of eternal night.